welcome to the first RetroFungeon Monday. I am Frank, aka eMaster. I know I've been saying this for a long time. I've been wanting to do these for almost a year now, but I finally come around to setting up the camera and doing this. I actually recorded this exact same video before, but I got some of the facts fucked up, and well, I didn't like it in general. So this is my second time trying this. So the first one here, I'm going to go ahead and start RetroFungeon Mondays with one of my favorite game series, and that is the 16-bit wrestling game series. Now, by 16-bit game wrestling, I mean just the WWF games, or WWE as they are called now. Just their games. There was a WCW game on the Super Nintendo as well as Fire Pro Wrestling, and I guess Saturday Night Slam Masters also, but I never really liked those wrestling games. This is the only series of wrestling games I liked. And I have all of them, and I'm going to go ahead and show them to you. The first one here, and this is also the very first one I played, was Super WrestleMania for the Super Nintendo, made by LJN. The Angry Video Game Nerd doesn't like them very much, but hey, I like the wrestling games, so I don't know what he's talking about. But this came out in April 1992. I played this probably in June or July 1993, actually. I got it from my local Blockbuster, which no longer exists, unfortunately. And this is complete in box. Let me just take the game out here. Complete cartridge, which when I actually got this, this game actually came kind of moldy. Like, I could smell like it's been somewhere damp or moldy, and so I'm like, what the hell is this? So I got a couple of dollars off it, and I cleaned it up, so it's not that bad anymore, but still sucks. Now, this game, I must say, first and foremost, the gameplay is very simple, very arcadey. I mean, even the manual is really simple. Just your basic maneuvers and whatnot. But you also featured quite a nice roster of wrestlers here. Hulk Hogan being one of them. This is probably the first 16-bit game that features his image. And of course, we have a very young Mr. Calloway, Mr. Undertaker, when he was just starting out in the business, actually. Who else do we have in here? Sid Justice, or Sid Vicious, however you want to call him. He was pretty awesome. He still wrestles. Believe it or not, he still wrestles. Ted DiBiase, of course, the $1 Million Man, who is now a reverend. Hawk and Animal of the Legion of Doom, or the Road Warriors, however, which wrestling you grew up watching. Oh my god, the Natural Disasters. John Tenta, and I forgot the other guy's name, Typhoon or Tugboat. Unfortunately, he's passed away. Funny to note that. Jake the Snake Roberts, who I hear is doing DDP yoga now. Macho Man Randy Savage, again, also dead. And that's it. That's the roster for this game. Now, you would think, okay, so a port came out for the Super Nintendo. So, you know, what could this game possibly be different on another platform? Well, it was different. On the Genesis, we had Super WrestleMania, and, well, you still had Hulk Hogan on the cover doing the same pose. However, you start seeing some faces that weren't in the previous one. So the first one, obviously, here being the Ultimate Warrior. Sorry, you can't really see it when you have the light glaring against it. I got this one complete as well, in box. This one, graphically, doesn't look that much better, but it certainly has way more features than the other ones. I mean, look, in this one, you had, the British Bulldog, Erwin R. Scheiser, or IRS, or Michael Wall Street, I believe was his name, $1 Million Man, and Randy Savage again. But yeah, British Bulldog was not in the previous ones. Ultimate Warrior was only in this game, and what was the other one? WWF In Your House for the PlayStation 2 and I think Saturn? I'm not 100% sure. And Papa Shango, who later on went on to be a pimp. The $1 Million Man, British Bulldog. He's also unfortunately passed away. Erwin R. Scheister. Shawn Michaels, after he turned heel by, giving Sweet Chin Music to Marty Jannetty through the plain glass window at the barbershop segment. Look it up, kids. Macho Man, again, also not with us. And yeah, and that's about it. So I find the roster in this game to be a lot cooler because it had the Ultimate Warrior in it. But it plays very nicely. I like the gameplay of it. It's a lot of fun. This game came out only a few months, or I think like a month or two after the Super Nintendo version came out. I don't remember exactly, but it was also 1992, around the same time that that came out. And much like today, back in the day, we also had companies who brought out a new wrestling game every year. And this is one of my favorites right here. This is WWF Royal Rumble, which had, again, a nice cast of characters. And you had no-holds-barred action, which basically meant rear naked chokes, eye rakes, and shit like that. But it also introduced weapons, which was very, very poorly photoshopped into Mr. Perfect's hands or Kurt Hennig's hands, as I don't really believe that was supposed to be in his hands. It doesn't really look like it's supposed to be in his hands. But yes, this one I also got complete. I actually have a dust guard in this one, I think. No, I don't. I took it out. Ha! But anyways, cartridge and the manual again. And this was one of the rare times that I actually seen a white-faced manual, which I did not see very often. Again, it has very similar gameplay to the first one. That's one of the things I do want to mention. The gameplay of all these games is pretty much the same look, feel, and same system. There is really not much of a difference between the games other than the rosters and additional features. You could pretty much say that these games all evolve from version 1 to version 6, but it's still the same game. But here we have a lot more superstars here. You had the Macho Man Randy Savage, Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig, who's also not with us. Macho Man also not with us anymore. Crush also not with us anymore. Wow, I think I'm just going to subtitle this video Dead Wrestlers. John Calloway, Mr. Calloway, Mr. Undertaker, Bret the Hitman Hart. I've met him in person. He's a really cool guy. Tatanka, no, he's still alive. Ric Flair, oh boy. I think that guy's getting divorced for like the 4th time now in like 10 years. Oh my god. Shawn Michaels when he was starting to get a push. Yokozuna, also dead. The narcissist Lex Luger. Narcissist Lex Luger, not the all-American Lex Luger. Keep that in mind. There was 2 of them while he was in WWF. $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. Razor Ramon. The big difference, though, between these ones and the previous ones was, in the first Super WrestleMania, there were no finishing moves. Like, there was no, any kind of, like, you couldn't do Hulk Hogan's leg drop. I mean, you could do a leg drop, but everybody could do a leg drop in the game. But there was no signature moves. But in the Genesis version, there were signature moves, which I thought was awesome. So it was the Genesis that first had those. But this is the first one for the Super Nintendo that actually has the finishing moves, which are pretty cool, but some of them I find very difficult to execute. Like ones like Bret Hart, you just, hold L and R, near the person's feet, and, you do the sharpshooter. I mean, it's pretty cool. This came out in June 1993, so just a little bit after, about 14 months later, from when the original came out. Well received. This remains as one of my favorites just because of the chokes. Oh, and another thing that you can do in this version is you can choke the referees in this game. Not choke the referees. You can knock them out by, like, if they're standing like close to the corner or close to the rope. If you run towards the ropes, you can knock out the referee, and then of course, officiated match. You can now make it no holds barred until the referee gets back up to their consciousness. So, of course, that leads us to the Genesis version of the same one, which came out in September 1993, I believe. And this featured 6 in-the-ring mayhem, so you had 3-on-3 tag matches simultaneously, which I thought was pretty cool. And everybody, again, had their own... the finishing moves, signature or finishing moves. As well as, again, it also had chokeouts and chair shots and all that stuff. I got no manual for this one, sorry, but we can see the roster here on the back of the box. The Undertaker again, Hulk Hogan, which is he was not in Royal Rumble for the Super Nintendo because he had already left and gone to WCW at that point. Crush, again not with us anymore. The Narcissist Lex Luger, Shawn Michaels, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and I think this is the only 16-bit game that features Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I think. Ho. Razor Ramon, Macho Man Randy Savage, Rick the Model Martel, famous Quebec wrestler, Papa Shango again, Bret Hart, and IRS. So this roster is not too different from the other one, but it's still cool. It's a lot of fun to play. I like playing this one as well, but I find the Super Nintendo version a little bit easier to play. But again, it looked and played great, which was awesome. And this brings us to another year later. Actually, no, at the end of this year, though, something special came out. Besides the Genesis and Super Nintendo, we now had wrestling games on other systems that were in the same style. And that brings us to the Sega CD WWF Rage in the Cage. This game is fucking awesome. I do recommend you have a 6-button pad for this game, because you will definitely need it because of all the moves you need to do. With any of these wrestling games, I recommend having a 6-button pad. Of course, with the exception of Super WrestleMania, which only takes the 3-button pad, I believe. But this one here features so many wrestlers that were never featured in 16-bit wrestling games. Knobs and Sags, the Nasty Boys, the All-American Lex Luger, not the Narcissist Lex Luger, the All-American Lex Luger. Fatu, and I forgot the other guy's name, of the Hit Shrinkers, Macho Man Randy Savage, Undertaker, Rick the Model Martel, $1 Million Man, Mr. Perfect, Bret Hart, Bam Bigelow, also passed away, Yokozuna, Crush, IRS, Big Boss Man, also the only 16-bit game he was ever in, Kamala, and of course Razor Ramon. Now, the cool thing about this game is that Howard Finkel, for those of you who have watched wrestling in the 90s, know who Howard Finkel is. I hope you do. But Howard Finkel was the announcer for the WWF throughout the 90s and 80s. And he announces all the matches, and each person has like their opening, statement to make towards the match, I guess, whatever. They talk shit to one another. Yeah, don't let the burn disc fool you. This is an original game. I highly recommend that when you have Sega CD games like the originals, back them up on these, Memorex black CDRs. They're like the PlayStation 1 CD, or like the PlayStation 1 games, same covered surface, and these will actually make your games load faster. Just burn them at 4 times speed, and you're good to go. They play even better than the originals. So if you don't want to use your originals, don't want to risk scratching them up or whatnot, and you want to keep them nice and neat, make a backup of it. The one thing I didn't like about this game was the fact that the controls were really wonky. I mean, you could tell they tried to port everything in, but they weren't very successful at it. A lot of the moves are very, very hard to pull off. If you play against a computer, you really need a turbo control pad that will help you win the tug-of-war style system that they have for doing the moves on one another. Thing is, though, it's got steel cages in it, which is one really awesome thing about this game. But it looks great. It's probably the best looking wrestling game of this entire generation. This is the best looking one. It had a lot of cool features. I just really wish they would have gotten the controls down a little bit better before they brought it out, but what can you do? There's no patches. And that brings us to our last game, of which I only have the Super Nintendo version of, because for a change, WWF Raw, which came out in 1994, December 1994, during the Attitude Era, well, the beginning of the Attitude Era, I would say the beginning of the Attitude Era, and this was the last one that came out for the Super Nintendo. I mean, sure, there was WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game, but I don't count that one because I never really liked those ones. I mean, the idea of it was cool, but it seriously was not for me. This game, again, this is the best version on the Super Nintendo, because in this game they introduce a different weapon. They have buckets now, also besides chairs that you can use as weapons in the ring. The buckets were really cool because you could hit a person multiple times before the bucket breaks or whatever. You can't use it anymore. And it was really cool. The super moves were a lot easier to pull off in this game. And they also introduced some sort of super moves, like Owen Hart did some like helicopter hammer thing. I don't know what the heck it was. I never learned how to pull off any of those moves. But the roster here is very, very interesting. Starting with the 1-2-3 Kid, or Sean Waltman as he's known. Bam Bigelow. Diesel, or what's his name? Kevin Nash, as his real name is. Doink the Clown. I'm not sure who this was at that time. Bret Hart and Owen Hart were both in this game. He's also passed away. You're noticing a theme here, I think. Shawn Michaels, as he was starting to get, getting pushed towards main event status. Razor Ramon, of course. Undertaker, who's been in every one of these, actually. Yokozuna, who's also actually been almost in all of these. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. But it also featured Luna Vachon, who you could wrestle as. And it's probably the only 16-bit wrestling game that actually features a way to have a match with a woman for, for a couple of minutes. Ugh, whatever. Anyways, that brings us to the end here. That was the entire collection. I think next time we will do some side-scrolling brawlers. I'm not sure which ones yet. Is it going to be Rushing Beat? Is it going to be Final Fight? There's many. I have quite a few of these series, so we can get into other beat-em-up genres. Anyways, visit us at RetroFungeon.com, as well as my podcast at CrossBorderGaming.com, which we do every week, every Thursday, live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, including this Thursday and every Thursday. And also check us out on Twitter at RetroFungeon or CBG Podcast. And yes, we hope you enjoyed that. Have a good night. Toodles.